The New York Jets have released guard Laken Tomlinson, meaning we got 3 massive holes on our offensive line. I want to give you guys my predictions for what the Jets' final offensive line will look like.
Jets, Jets, Jets!
All right, time to get into it. Let's talk about this. Laken Tomlinson cut by the New York Jets, saving $8.1 million against the salary cap. The Jets are sitting somewhere around that $12 million figure at this particular point in time. They can get up as high as about $67, $70 million in cap space with simple restructures, releasing of a few players, things of that nature. But I want to get into this. Cutting Laken Tomlinson leaves a massive hole for the New York Jets on the offensive line. Now, you could argue that his level of play was the hole to begin with, so it was just one player we were going to have to replace anyway, but at least he's been healthy. On a line that started, 13 or 14 different offensive line combinations, this guy has been the only rock as far as health goes. So it's going to be an interesting way to solve offensive line with Laken no longer in the fold. So the Jets are looking for 3 brand new starters across the offensive line, not to mention depth, because you got AVT, who you're concerned about coming off an Achilles injury. So I want to get into it. I want to give you guys my prediction for what I think the Jets' offensive line is going to look like. And there's a few ways that we're going to have to kind of consider this. So in my mind, it's the before free agency, then it's what happens during free agency, then it's the draft, then it's training camp. So there's going to be a little bit of maneuvering around before we get to what our final 5 combination is for the offensive line. But I want to walk you through my thought process for how we're going to go through that. So we'll pop over here. We'll look at our current offensive line as it's currently constructed right now. Fixing the offensive line, you're going to need 2 offensive tackles and a guard in some capacity. Now, I want to look inward at our own tackles. You have AVT coming off the Achilles injury. I don't particularly want to have to rely solely on him as like the only person, you can really rely on in terms of guard or tackle or whatever. I think based on his 5th-year option, there's a chance that the Jets could at least consider AVT out at the tackle position. It's not my ideal preferred spot for him, but I think for right now, what I would say is let's pencil him in for right tackle heading into free agency. So at least the optics for us from an inward perspective are, or maybe an external perspective for other teams. It's like, okay, we got to figure out 2 guards in a strong interior offensive line for agent class, and you got to get 1 additional left tackle. So before we hit free agency, I do want to bring back Conor McGovern, and I'd like to move Tippmann over to guard, at least for right now. When I'm looking at Tippmann's body of work, he was fine at center. I think he's going to be a good long-term center for the New York Jets, but he was really good at guard. Now, if I pencil him in at guard, that leaves 2 holes left, and Conor McGovern signed for $1 million or $1.9 million last year. I believe the vet minimum this year is going to be like $2.1 million. So for a very low cost, you can have your starting center from last year plug in, which was the starting center that Aaron Rodgers preferred after all of training camp. Tippmann had a few wild passes or wild snaps throughout the course of the season. So I could see a situation where Rodgers may want McGovern back at this point in time, but we're not done. So we get Conor McGovern in, then we're going to have to sign one of these strong interior offensive linemen that I've been talking about, Kevin Zeitler, the guard from Baltimore, formerly of the New York Giants. Maybe he wants to come back to New York. His contract has not been overly bad the last few years. I think he's been getting paid about $7 or $8 million if memory serves correct. Could he come back up here? I would think we might be a higher pay rate than maybe some other teams that he would want to go to because we are so desperate on our offensive line. Now, because of his age, he's sitting at, I think, 35 years old. He is elevated in age. You're going to have to look for some type of replacement moving forward. But right now, with Aaron Rodgers, you're looking for the best plug-and-play starter you can get right now. And I like Zeitler here in terms of right guard without having to break the bank too much. At left tackle, that's where it starts to get a little bit interesting because the free agent class is not very strong. But it seems like Cam Robinson, the left tackle from the Jacksonville Jaguars, is going to be a cut casualty for the salary cap purposes because they want to try and retain Josh Allen. They're still trying to figure out a way to keep Calvin Ridley, although I think he's probably going to hit free agency as well. And I think Cam Robinson at his $16 million cap hit is going to be the way they save that salary cap. And if I'm the New York Jets and I'm looking at Cam Robinson's pass blocking grades the last few years, I'm saying, yo, 29-year-old tackle, you come over here and we'll pay you to do what you've been doing down there, but just do it up here for us, because that sounds to me, when I'm looking at like injury history and like there's always going to be warts on some of these tackles or offensive linemen that hit free agency. Like you got Bakhtiari, you got Tyron Smith, you got Trent Brown, Jonah Williams. None of them really excite me the way I think a Cam Robinson could. Now, he could be a little bit more expensive. He's been getting paid about $16 million each of the last 2 years. Does he take a similar contract because he's the top guy on the free agent market? Do all the tackles start to get elevated upwards? Are we talking like $20 million for Cam Robinson? I don't really know where the market's going to shake out because of how low the quality of tackles are, but it could elevate their prices a little bit more. At least Cam Robinson has had the production and, for the most part, the health to be able to be on that offensive line. And I would prefer to overpay a 29-year-old as opposed to maybe overpaying someone like a Tyron Smith or Jonah Williams or Trent Brown, something like that, that might go a different route. So as of now, going into the draft, this is what my offensive line looks like. And I'm not feeling too bad about that. I'm feeling all right. But then post-draft, going into the draft, I would like to replace our right tackle with the number 10 overall pick. The betting favorite, I think, for most people is Talise Funga, the right tackle from Oregon State. I would love him. J.C. Latham. I mean, if you can get one of Alt or Fashanu to fall, maybe you plug them in at right tackle for a season if you have to. But more than likely, those two off the board. Fuaga seems to be the one that you're going to be penciling in. You see I moved Tippmann back to center. That's because AVT was never actually going to play tackle this entire time. This was just more so about penciling in people where you think the best 5 could potentially be at this point in time. And they're not even taking a snap yet. They haven't had any training camp, anything along those lines. But you got from left to right, Robinson, Vera Tucker, Tippmann, Zeitler, and then the number 10 pick in, assuming it's Funga or Latham. But then you want to look a little bit more at our reserves. So as far as the reserves go, we've got Carter Warren as the backup left tackle. I would imagine if he's not fully healthy, AVT would be that emergency tackle in the event that Warren is not healthy. But if Warren is not up to snuff to play to a backup level, if Cam Robinson goes down, then I would imagine AVT would be the emergency guy. You have Wes Schweitzer as a backup center or guard for the interior of our offensive line. McGovern, same thing, interior guy, has the backup ability at center and has the ability to kick out to guard. So you have more flexibility in the event that AVT is not a fully 100%, healthy with that Achilles injury. I would draft Zach Zinter in like the 4th round. That's kind of where I'm projecting him to go. Now, if you want to call it a different offensive guard in the 3rd round or, some other player in the 4th round, that's fine too. But I think Zinter has the highest ceiling to plug in at right guard long-term. And with that fractured leg that he had this past offseason towards, I think it was the end of November, he's probably not going to go as high in the draft as you would otherwise expect. And the Jets get the benefit of being able to allow this guy to sit for an extra season with someone like Zinter there in front of him. And then you have Max Mitchell at the right-hand side at right tackle. And I don't know if that's necessarily going to be how the ultimate final day, day 1 training camp roster or final day of training camp really works out, because I could see another addition coming into the New York Jets, and that is the addition of David Bakhtiari at some point in the summer, because he's going to get that extra knee surgery. I believe it's supposed to happen this offseason, and then he's going to have to pass a physical before you wind up signing him. So I think the Jets can really, hit my microphone. I think the Jets can handle all their offensive line woes and then look pretty good after the draft, and then add Aaron Rodgers' best friend in an incentive-laden deal that lets you have the ability to really, wheel and deal in all sorts of excitement. And this offensive line, to me, would be very exciting. And you're talking, what did we spend overall in free agent dollars? You're talking maybe $16 million for Robinson. You're talking maybe $8 million for Zinter. So what is that, $24 million, give or take a little bit? Let's call it $30 million is what you spent all in on the offensive line when you include Bakhtiari or incentives or whatever it is. Let's call that what it is. I'm feeling pretty good. This is a good offensive line. I pat myself on the back a little too hard. I might fall over. Now, I want to hear from you guys. What do you think of my offensive line? Do you think it has solved the Jets' problems going into next year? Would you feel confident about the future? Is it just a little Band-Aid? Is it totally unrealistic to get the 2 free agents that I had us penciled into getting? Let me know in the comment section down below. Let me know your top 5 offensive linemen that you'd like to see start for the New York Jets week 1 of the 2024 season. Let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, go Jets. Thank you guys so much for hitting the like and subscribe button on these videos. It goes a long way towards growing the channel. And then occasionally I get sponsors like this. So if you want to help support the sponsor of the channel, or maybe just get yourself some cool gear or some good discounts, you can click the link in the description down below. Today's sponsor, Crescent Canna, is going to give you 25% off your order using promo code JetsTalk. Link in the description down below. They've got gummies, THC syrup, THC seltzers. I just discovered these things. They are incredible. As someone who has been trying to cut down a little bit of their alcohol consumption and not, maybe feel as crummy the next day, this has been a godsend for me. keep me nice and calm, cool, and collected, especially with all the hurdles that our Jets throw our way and all the headaches that we got to deal with as fans. So if you guys want to help support the channel, maybe get yourself a little bit of a discount as well. Support the sponsors of the channel, 𝐀𝐟𝐼𝐥𝐻 of the channel. Thank you so much for watching the show.